To my mind, organizations are much too focused around issues of leadership, issues of structure, issues of authority, and it's posing great problems. That's always been the case, I think, to some extent, but what we're getting now is much more of that in business, particularly because of what's called shareholder value, namely that we're part of what's called shareholder value is holding the chief executive responsible for performance, because it's hard to motivate employees to get excited about shareholders in any event, but especially when so many of them are day traders going in and out so often. So we tend to focus a lot of attention around chief executives, and that's creating a kind of centralization and short-termism that's causing huge problems. Now, the question is about flaws in organizations in general, but what's happening, I think, particularly in this country, in the United States, a little less elsewhere, is the business model is considered the right model for everybody. So subtle aspects of the business model, not shareholder value per se, because if you're managing in government or in the social sector, NGOs and so on, you're not earning profit as such, but a lot of the baggage that goes with that, the centralization, the short-term thinking, the quick hits, the 100 days, all those sorts of things are wreaking havoc with organizations in other spheres. My bigger flaw, in a sense, my concern about a much bigger flaw is that the private sector, and this comes out of this but it's more general, is that the private sector is driving, and particularly in the United States, is driving the public sector and the social sector. It's driving the public sector in the sense that everybody thinks it should be run like business, but also that that the power over the public sector is increasingly held by the private sector because of donations and lobbying and other forces. And the power over society too, because of advertising. Now we've got clean coal advertisements, and anybody who doesn't believe in clean coal can't possibly afford to counter the advertising of the coal trade association. So we're getting an imbalance in society that I think is becoming very dangerous. How do you solve this? First of all, I don't think corporations are persons. Persons are persons. If corporations are persons and they break the law, they should go to jail, which means they shouldn't function for a few months, so no corporation is going to accept that. Second of all, I think that the stock market has to be reconsidered. Either as many companies as possible should get out of it because it's dysfunctional the way it's working today, or at least there be changes in the way stockholding is influential in corporations, so that for example, nobody should have the right to vote as a shareholder until they've held the stock for a certain period of time. Different things like that. Shareholder value should be dispensed with totally, or corporations, as well as any other organizations, are institutions which serve society, and they've got to be responsive to society. And this idea that if they're responsive to the shareholders alone, everything will be taken care of is, I think, dead wrong. I think organizations have to be responsive to all sorts of constituencies, including their own employees and their customers and so on.